morning, everybody. Papua New Guinea had hundreds of cannibal tribes as recently as the mid-20th century. Today, it is still remote, and a significant part of its population lives in what we consider the Stone Age, having minimal contact with Western civilization. It was supposed to be a dangerous place to visit, but it didn't scare me because I had already been traveling for over 2 years by then, and nothing scared me. So I organized a small expedition to the Hulu Wigman country in the highlands by hiring a couple to act as my guides, they then recruited one of their cousins to be our porter to carry our belongings. Here I am amid the Wigmen. I was lucky to see them in their full regalia, since just as we entered the first town, there was a festival, and they were all there. Such amazing things happen when you travel around the world, amazing synchronicities. After trekking in the countryside, we settled in a Hulu village. That's a funny photo from the journey, that's the male guide. We wandered about the village, and after some interactions with the locals, we arrived at the hut of an elder called Papete. He wasn't the chief or anything, just a simple old man. While we were conversing through my guide, Papete was cleaning scallions, which my guide told me were his gift for me. It was very weird. While we were speaking, he was cleaning the scallions. And Papete's life story was very interesting. He was born into a Stone Age society, witnessed the arrival of the Europeans, and finally became a Christian and a devout one at that. He lived in his hut with his pig. There he is. He actually slept next to his pig. His plan was to keep the pig healthy and fatten it even more in order to sell it at some later date for a small fortune, since big fat pigs are quite valuable in this community. Later that evening, just as I was about to sleep in a hut with the Hulu family, I noticed that my money was missing from my wallet. I called the guides, and we all soon realized that their cousin, the porter, had gone missing, most probably with my money. So they were very shocked. The male guide was very apologetic, and he decided to set up a team to go after a search team to go after the runaway cousin. While the men went searching, the whole village, it was a small village, had learned about the incident, and at some time later, my female guide came in the hut, and she told me that Papete also had heard the news, and that he was so ashamed that the rules of hospitality of his tribe were violated, and so sad for me that he offered to sell his pig, his whole life savings, to reimburse my stolen money. I was so deeply moved. Fortunately, the search team had found the thief and returned in the morning with the money, but all day long my mind was not on the theft but on Papete, because I felt that his gesture had shown me that he already considered me his friend, and so for the next 2 days I tried to reciprocate this friendship by getting to know him better. And I feel that we had bonded forever. Papete and I had bonded forever, and I honored him by including his photo in my recently published book, Destination Earth. Now, why did I begin with this story? The Papete story, where I experience another culture and connect with the locals, where I gracefully receive the warm hospitality and generosity of a small village, where a search team is set up in the middle of the night to go after my belongings and the runaway thief, where I make a true friend in the most remote corner of the world, and through his noble gesture I am profoundly transformed, are reasons enough to travel around the world. Yet many people keep asking, why travel around the world? What's the point? They want something more rational that would satisfy their intellect. So I will take a step back in order to tackle this question in a more comprehensive way. So, why travel around the world in the first place? The answer to this question is actually very simple, and I spend a lot of time in my book explaining. Long-term travel is the ultimate university. It offers the most wide-ranging and deepest courses in all fields of life. It brings together theory and practice and harmonizes knowledge with life, the whole of life. Travel is multi-dimensional. It connects the various branches of knowledge that seem disparate, be it the arts, sciences, history, geography, and so on. Nothing does it as well as travel. Most importantly, it explores things firsthand, visceral. You may join a Peruvian fiesta and dance with the locals, enjoy wonderful street food in Beijing, climb an active volcano, feel the volcano, grab its hot rocks, smell its fumes. So it is not just the ultimate university, it is the only one that is 100% alive. Knowledge becomes a living experience and it transforms the traveler to the core. Some water, please. We have the privilege to live in a unique era. Travel nowadays is easier than ever before in the history of humanity. One need not be a wealthy aristocrat, a state diplomat, an explorer to travel around the world. Thank you. That was the case throughout history. You had to be one of those three to travel. Nowadays, all of us can travel around the world with a modicum of financial means. We have Airbnb, air fares are extremely cheap, easy to obtain visas. Never before in the history of humanity did we have this. Yet I still understand that many are afraid of long-term travel. They are afraid of supposed dangers, they are afraid of being on their own, and many other things. Yet there is nothing to fear. The world is not as most of you imagine it to be. Okay, then what is it like? In 2005, I began my continuous around the world journey. Just as people say, I want to see Australia, and then they travel for 3 months, say, around Australia in order to get a good feel for it, I decided to do the same on a much grander scale, to see the world. So I treated the world as if it were one huge country, a single destination, and then I went out to see it. I ended up traveling for 6.5 years to 70 countries. Here is the route I followed. I flew from Europe to the US, where you see the start sign, and then I followed the westward route until I reached Europe again after many years. The further I moved along my travel route, the more I realized that I knew nothing about the world. The world was not as I had imagined it to be. I soon felt as if I were an extraterrestrial exploring an alien planet. So now let us imagine that I am not an Earthian, but an interstellar traveler whose home of residence is another planet, and that I have just returned from a journey to the Earth, and I want to speak to you about this faraway planet. So let us see some of the most general characteristics of the Earth, not through the eyes of a historian, an astronomer, a geographer, but through the eyes of an interstellar traveler who has just returned from a journey. First of all, the world is huge. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it is huge with respect to the size of a human being. We are like little ants moving around on a huge infinite surface. It is much bigger than most of you think it is. It took me more than a year of travels to really appreciate the true size of the Earth and the interconnection between countries and continents. For example, Europe, a quite important continent in terms of its cultural and historical influence to the rest of the world, is the second smallest continent after Australia. It is even smaller than Antarctica, which is at the bottom of the map. When you see the normal map, you don't even see Antarctica. And France which is the largest country in Europe, and one may need months, if not years, to explore it, is only 0.4% of the land surface of the planet. That's how small, huge France is. The world is provided. As soon as every organism on this planet is born, all its needs are being met. Everything we need is being provided for. Wherever you go, there is lodging, there is food, towns or cities nearby from which you can buy anything you need. But above all, there are other human beings that surround you, and they can offer any help you need and satisfy all your needs. The world is not only providing, it is also an amazingly safe place. It is no different than your own neighbor. Do you feel unsafe right now? Do you see any danger around you? I hope an earthquake doesn't happen at this exact moment. A lamp falls from the ceiling on somebody's head. Being violently robbed while you travel is much more rare than being run over by a car. Yet we all go on crossing the streets. It is the rule that matters, not the exception. Unfortunately, most people think about the exception all the time, and they do not travel because of many unfounded fears. We live not only in a safe world, but also in a friendly world. Wherever we go, we are surrounded by people who treat us with kindness and respect. Mankind is a polite, open-hearted, helpful species. That's how the extraterrestrial would have described us in this Star Trek scenario. We move in and are surrounded by this friendly humanity. And here the Papedo story comes to mind because it embodies all of the above. The world is providing, the world is safe, the world is friendly. I could have spoken about many more aspects of the planet, but I chose the specific ones in order to dispel all fears and encourage all of you to embark on long-term journeys. The world is huge, ought to make you hurry up and go. Not much time to see the world. It is providing means you do not need to overplan nor stress about anything. Safe means there's nothing to fear. Nothing will happen to you. Friendly, you will have a great time and make many new friends. Until this point, I have been speaking about travel in the outside world. But parallel to the outer journey, there is also an inner journey. The way the outward movement transforms the inner being, the core of who we are. Let me now speak briefly about this inner journey. While traveling, one enters into another mode of being, which I call the mode of becoming. This is different from the mode of being in which our ordinary everyday life moves. A person living a normal life, taking care of family matters and having a fixed place of residence and work, is preoccupied with doing things. He does work, he does socializing, he does shopping, he even does vacation. But travel life is very different. It pertains to the becoming. This is so because just by moving from place to place, you are by default in the school of life. By being in the journey, the traveler ceases to do, to simply do, and is becoming. The becoming, and I use it in order to show the difference between becoming and doing. The becoming is another term for the more common word, transformation. So world travel is transformative. Most transformations happen gradually. You can't pinpoint to a specific thing that caused the change. Sorry. Transformations are the result of many little things that come together and of internal processes that built up slowly, like a volcano builds up, and then slowly, poof, you have an explosion. And then you realize that after many years of traveling, you are not the same person anymore. The way you feel, the way you behave, the way you understand the world is different than it used to be at the beginning of the journey. Still, there are some very special moments when you have a sudden opening, and you realize on the spot that something has had a profound effect on you. Overall, the inner life is invisible and difficult to share with others. However, I would like to close with a story of a sudden opening that is more shareable than other stories, and that I feel that it connects the outer with the inner journey. This story was the inspiration for the last chapter of my book, World Citizen. After traveling for 6 years, I was in the last leg of my journey, Europe. I was driving in Amsterdam, and at some point, I lost my way. I accidentally drove down a one-way street the wrong way, then on a pedestrian stone-paved road, then to another one-way street, and finally I ended up in the middle of a square with many cafes and tables and people sitting around in Amsterdam, the archetypal city of bicycles. So I was pretending, you know, everything is fine, hi everybody. And of course, all Dutch eyes were staring at me, you know how they look sometimes in Europe. And they were thinking, who the hell is this bozo and what is he doing here? And well, I did my final stunt, a U-turn amidst the tables. And then I ended up parking, of course, on a double yellow line facing the wrong way. And just as I had done approximately 10 traffic violations within the span of 3 minutes. As soon as I had parked, I realized I was at the center of a den of lions. There were 4 policemen in that street where I parked, handing out tickets to other cars. And of course, as Murphy's Law has it, one of them saw everything and he started approaching with a big smile. I lowered the window and he said, "Ah, I see you come from very far away." He had seen my foreign license plates. And then he started asking me, "What are you doing here? Are you having fun? Where did you go? Do you like Amsterdam?" And we started chatting like 2 pals who had just met at the pub. Nothing about my previous traffic violations, nothing about the fact that I was parked on a double yellow line while conversing with him. We spoke for 10 or 15 minutes, and just as he was about to go, he said, "Ah, and by the way, my friend, don't stay here all day." That was it. At that moment, I had an epiphany. I realized that this person addressed me first as a human being, and then as anything else. And then I thought, wait a minute, it wasn't just this Dutch policeman who behaved this way towards me. It was everybody. Everybody, while I was traveling around the world, treated me first as a human being, and then as a person with specific qualities, whether it be a Greek or a traveler or a traffic violator. I realized that our common humanity is the substratum of everything, and that it was the thing in which I was immersed throughout my journey. But because I was immersed in it, it was invisible. I couldn't see it, just as we can't see our eyes, but our eyes see everything. This epiphany would later lead to my following maxim: our common humanity is neither a rationalization nor a deduction. It is as much a given as our nationality. It is our common humanity that connects us all, and that is why we are all now, by default, world citizens. For we are all humans, and we share this planet, our home. Thank you.